What's going on, everybody? We are back, episode 206 of the Club and Sub podcast. Tonight we're talking UFC Saudi Arabia. Going to keep the introduction a bit brief tonight since we have the conference championship game going on. But like I said, we're going to be here every Sunday night, so we're doing it. But yeah, we're brought to you guys by FightNumbers.com. I normally give more of a spiel about it, but like I said, we're trying to keep it moving. For 30% off your first month subscription there, use the promo code CLUB, CLUB. Great service. They have a ton of different stuff there. John Kelly's DFS rankings, bets from Pepe and Ozzy, the trends tool. It's awesome. Check it out. Real quick, let's talk about last week. Big night for me. I was up 8.27 units on it. In terms of props and totals, I had the Dawson over 2.5 at minus 130 to win a unit and a half. That hit. I had the Prochaska Hill over minus 150 to win a unit and a half. That hit. Sweaty, but it hit. I had the Guskov Alicata over 1.5 at plus 105 for a unit and a half. That also hit. Also extremely, extremely sweaty. I had a bunch of props that did not hit. I had Rosa by submission. Rosa wins in round 2. Rosa wins in round 3. Zach Reese by submission. Reese sub 1. Obviously, that didn't go well. I had I had Tagirul and Beckhoff to win a unit minus 250. That got home. Felt fine about it. I had a unit and a half on CDF plus 265. Didn't go great. Dude just doesn't really have it anymore. And Grant Dawson's great. I had a unit and a half on Zachary Reese plus 170. Not good. Not good. Not good.
Yeah.
I had a half unit on Heoni Barcelos plus 860. So that was fun.
That was good. That was great.
That was really good. Yeah. So I won 4.3 units there. I had 2.2 units at Kevin Holland minus 110. Yeah, Kevin Holland seems pretty checked out to me, to be completely honest, with how quickly he kind of capitulated in that fight. And then I had 2 units on Merab plus 255, which was awesome to see. That got home for 5.1 units. Obviously, I shouldn't say the outcome was obvious, but, you know, there's just not anybody alive who can really keep up with Merab's pace if you don't put him down. It's crazy. How'd you do, Lex?
Well, I was going to say the bet was obvious.
Then. Yeah, I thought so.
Yes, and people will talk about, you know, the injury, this and that, you know. Meanwhile, Merab had injuries leading into the fight where actually Merab...
He had half a leg, man.
Right, I know, whereas Umar actually injured himself in the fight. So actually my only loss on the night was the first over you talked about. So you had the over in the Prochaska Hill fight. I had the doesn't start round 3 to win a unit and a half. And then the only other blemish on the night really was I didn't even track my fifth place. So I forgot to do that because I thought I actually had those in. So, but I had a unit on Merab at plus 265, and then I had the under 1.5 rounds in the Almeida Spivak minus 130. So 1.77 units overall.
Yeah, so it was a good night for us. Good second card of the year, and we got a breakfast cocktail card next week, 9 a.m. This thing is getting off the ground. 12 fights. We just lost one yesterday. I believe it was Muniz Aliskerov, but I don't think any of us had any interest in that anyway. So first fight of the night, we got is it Amir Al-Sawadi?
I don't know. Abdul.
Abdul,
no,
yeah.
Abdul.
Okay. That's a little racist to assume.
Abdul Kareem. Abdul Kareem.
Abdul Kareem Al-Sawadi. He's taking out Balaji Oki. Current price, Oki minus 153. Comeback on Al-Sawadi plus 133. I was hoping when the big line move happened for Al-Sawadi early in the week that it might flip and I could possibly bet Oki as a dog. But it bounced back, and I kind of agree with it where it is here. I mean, skill for skill, in my opinion. Am I coming out choppy to you?
No.
Okay, cool.
Not to me.
Skill for skill, in my opinion. I think Al-Sawadi's better. I think he's got a bit more craft to his game, striking. You know, he's got a bit better footwork, and I think if he can get takedowns, he has pretty big grappling upside. Because Oki hasn't been on bottom much, but when he has, I haven't really loved what I've seen from him down there. The issue for me is the hardware gap here is just gigantic, though. I don't think Al-Sawadi takes shots particularly well. I don't think he's got particularly great defense. And he puts himself in harm's way a lot. A lot of naked kicks, a lot of reckless entries into the pocket. Despite all of his, lateral movement that he uses in his fights, he tends to enter very linearly. And one thing Oki is really, really good at is countering sharply and quickly. Oki hits pretty hard. He's very, very fast. Should have a significant speed edge here, I think. And he's a bit longer. And obviously more durable. So the issue is, you could convince me that Al-Sawadi's value based on him being probably the better fighter. I just think unless he's getting easy takedowns and controlling Oki, though, he's very likely to give up a few big moments here at a high clip or even get knocked out. And with that dynamic, I just don't know how you don't favor Oki outright here. So I think the minus 150 is fine. What do you think?
No, I'm kind of completely along the same lines with you here because I mean, I was a guy who actually bet Alawadi against Loic, and I was totally remiss there of the physicality. And I feel like in general in 2024, and I have to do a better of it in general in 2025, just not ignoring, but I have to just actually, assess the physicality more so than probably that I am. And so to your point again here, I mean, Oki has a massive advantage in that department here. I think if it stays on the feet, which I think it likely will, I think he's definitely going to land a lot of critical hits here.
Yeah, agree. Moving on, we got a pick'em scrap here. Jamal Pogues coming back off his second UFC win, I guess, against Thomas Peterson. I cashed on as a big dog there. He is taking on Hamdi Abdell Wahab, the site of a lot of bloodshed in the MMA Twitter community in his last fight, myself included in that.
Not myself.
You're very fortunate for you. Or not fortunate. Very good decision making. I bet Mays minus 110 large. He closed like minus 230, and obviously he lost. I see Hamdi as a pretty popular bet this week, and I have to say I don't really understand it. Everyone and their brother wanted to bet Don'Tale Mayes against this guy in his last fight. And now you're turning around to bet. Now, that was the time to bet Hamdi, betting the Greco-Roman Olympian at plus 200 against Don'Tale Mayes. Now he's turning around and getting bet to pick him against Jamal Pogues. And I don't know. My view on Hamdi's game hasn't really changed one bit, really. I taped it. He's got some decent physical attributes. He's relatively quick for like a short, stocky guy like he is. I think he's got okay power. And obviously, he's got decent Greco wrestling. I don't think his MMA wrestling is really all that good, though, to be frank. And I look at it in the context of this fight, and I just think Jamal Pogues is better pretty much everywhere. He throws a lot more volume. He's the much more technically sound striker, much, much better boxer, much faster, throws straight to the target. He's got a 4-inch reach advantage here. Very good defensive wrestler. Thomas Peterson, who we'll talk about on this card, had a really hard time getting Pogues down. And in my opinion, Peterson is a much better MMA grappler than Hamdi is. I also think even if Hamdi can secure a takedown or two, I don't think he's going to have an easy time controlling Pogues. One of the things I noticed rewatching the Mays fight is the one time Mays tried to just get up on his own, he did it without really much problem. Hamdi, he has no real way to put hooks in. I don't think he's great at keeping his weight or height on top of guys. So I expect it to be mostly, maybe he gets a couple takedowns. Or like I said, I'd be a little surprised if he can control Pogues, and I'd expect it to be mostly a kickboxing match. And Hamdi hits hard enough to KO him, but he really only has a left hook. Pogues has good boxing. He's got pretty good kicks. He's very fast. He's taller. He's 4 inches longer than Hamdi is. I think Pogues is one of the worst matchups for Hamdi in the division outside of the top of it. I think he should be at least minus 150 here. I haven't bet him yet because it seems Hamdi is very, very popular this week, but I will eventually bet Jamal Pogues. What are your thoughts?
So I could only bet Pogues, but it just seems like a low-level dumpster fire, to be quite frank. To your point about the volume with Pogues, in the matchup, I do think he does have higher volume, but there's definitely moments in his fights where he can be, there's lulls, He doesn't have a ton of volume. He's pretty slow in general, too, and I feel like if
his hands aren't slow.
No. I'm just, in general, him throwing, not throwing a lot of volume. And also, I could see I could see Hamdi landing takedowns for sure. And this could definitely be a slog, the later this goes. It's not like Pogues is very fast. There's moments where Peterson got on top. There were moments where he was able to just land, have solid top control, and Pogues wasn't really offering much to get up. I think it's a relatively close fight. Don't get me wrong. I see where you would favor Pogues in the striking by far. And so a slight Pogues favor for me, but I don't have much interest betting it.
I'm not going to tell you you're wrong, but I did think Peterson, because that was my initial reaction to that fight before I taped it. But I did think on rewatch, Peterson did a really good job of out wrestling him and beating him to positions in a manner that I don't think Hamdi is really capable of. And yeah, you're right about the volume, but I guess the point I was trying to illustrate is, Pogues will throw in combination, whereas Hamdi, it's just kind of single shot left hook and that's it. But yeah, we'll see. I like Pogues quite a bit here, to be honest. Moving on, curious your thoughts here. We got Bogdan Grod making his UFC debut against Lucas Alexander, coming off being memed as a minus 500 favorite against Jekka. I think, yeah, it was.
Yes,
dude, it's a hilarious KO, honestly.
It's unreal.
Current price here. Yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'm going to throw it to you. I was going to say current price. Right. You just got to pick him here again. Minus 110 aside. What do you think?
Well, I was just going to let you introduce the price. I wasn't going to cut you off there. But I mean, I think the pick'em is pretty deserved, similar to how we were in the last fight. Like, it's, if anything, like I would be picking Grad here, like at a pick'em price, just because I feel like on the feet he does throw harder. I think the volume is probably pretty commensurate, and I think he can land takedowns. But again, I don't love his gas tank. I think it's, again, if this does get extended, I think it's going to be a pretty close fight. So I think slight pick'em Grad for me, but easy pass.
I bet Alexander pretty big, but I bet him at plus 150. I favor him outright, to be honest. Like, I think there's even small value where it is now, primarily just because, I mean, Grad obviously comes from a kickboxing background, and so he's kind of, I guess, developed this reputation as a proficient kickboxer. I just don't think he is. I really don't think like he's got pop.
I think he's all right. I think he's a decent striker. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I can't get out of my head with Grad is that last fight on DWCS. First of all, I can't get it out of my head because I bet Michael Aswell, and in my opinion, that was still a pretty rough decision. In my opinion, what I can't get out of my head with him is, Aswell's I'm relatively high on Aswell as a prospect, but like he's a meat and potatoes wrestle boxer. Like there's not a lot of craft to his game. It's a lot of pressure output. Come forward, try to get his hands on you. The kind of guy that like Grad on the feet should really style on, but Aswell was mostly like outstriking him on the feet, just with his hands. And to me, that seems like a really big red flag because I think Alexander is a much, much better striker than Aswell is. I think he's a lot faster. He measures distance much, much better. You actually have to work to get shots in on Alexander. He's a good kicker and he's got really good cardio, as opposed to Grad, who I think Grad is dangerous, but he doesn't have very good cardio, and I think he is hittable. And I look at them and it's like I have the guy with UFC experience in Alexander, who's 4 inches taller, 4 inches longer, much faster, and he's being priced at pick him with Grad, I guess, just off of reputation. But I have unless you think Grad KO is 25% outcome, I really have a hard time not putting Alexander in like the minus 140, minus 150 range here. I just think he's got more reliable volume. He's got more reliable cardio, and he's got more reliable speed. So I like the Alexander side here. I have him at plus 150 for a fair amount. But like I said, I honestly don't think minus 110 is a horrible price on him. Moving on, I'll stick it with you, Lags. Throw it to you again. We got Jasmine Yazoo Deicious taking on Mayra Bueno Silva. This is honestly a pretty sick card, like going through this fight by fight. It's a morning card.
Right. I was going to say, the only thing I was going to chime in and say is, like, from a money line perspective, though, I can't see myself having a ton of action. Like, if anything, I'm going to be targeting way more props and totals. Like, I don't see a ton of money lines that I'm getting to myself.
I'll probably have a lot of action, honestly.
That's fair. That's fair.
But the current price, we got Jasmine's minus 230, comeback on Mayra plus 195. What are your thoughts here, Legs?
And this is one of the ones I got to later in taping, just because I thought like the big chalk on Jasmine's pretty justified, and I do think it is pretty justified. Like, I think she can get takedowns here. She has a significant cardio edge, significant size edge. I mean, MBS is just pretty much a zombie that almost needs a KO. I'm not saying just drawing her dead with a KO, but I think Jasmine has significant advantages here.
Hold on, my headset died.
Good.
I don't know what I'm trying to get it back and set up.
I'm personally thinking of laying at 225. I don't know about you.
I considered it. I guess I have like one big fear here, because I agree with most of what you said. I think if it goes the distance, like, I would make Jasmine like minus 500 on a decision only line. Like, honestly, just it's like she's gonna get takedowns. Like, I'm almost positive that she'll get takedowns against Mayra at some point, and I just don't think Mayra is going to be able to work up. I've seen Wu Yanan control Mayra. I've seen Manon Fiore control her. I've seen Marina Moroz control her. Jasmine's a better grappler by a lot than all of them. She should be able to control her on the mat. Where my concern is just I mean, Myra is so fucking dangerous, for a female fighter. Very heavy hands for a woman, and obviously very, very dangerous jiu-jitsu. At the same time, though, having said that, I feel like it's very hard to put her finishing Jasmine past like 10%. And if you can't do that, is she better than 15% to win a decision? Like, I really don't think so, So I'm with you. I think, Jasmine's going to get really beaten up by the first woman she fights who can defend her takedowns and keep the fight upright because she's got no defense at all on the feet. But I don't think this is that spot. And I think Jasmine, what I'll give Jasmine is Myra can break women who are like kind of like Fugazi, but Jasmine is a tough fucking
son of a bitch. Yeah.
She's going to keep coming forward. So what I hate, I'll tell you what I hate. What I hate is I feel like we bet Jasmine in a bunch of spots where there was great value on her against like inferior fighters. Like, fuck, dude. I bet her against
like I know you did.
Underdog,
You see, that's the thing. You did in a lot of these spots. I'll be honest, I didn't. I didn't have the sack to do it in a lot of spots. Like against Klein, and then I think against Cassowary, she was a big favorite.
Yeah.
And I think Maverick, she was a big dog. Yep.
Yeah. So I get a little worried about continuing to buy as she takes a step up in competition, but I'm with you. Stylistically, it should be really a can of corn for her, in my opinion. And yeah, I mean, Ian just said in the chat, and he's not wrong. I did think Myra's, she did look a bit improved against, Macy, but also I think Jasmine's better than Macy. I also think the other thing is I think it's a weird decision by Myra to come back down to 125 at this point in her career. She's in her 30s. The class is less skilled at 135. I don't know why she's making this decision. It seems foolish to me, and taking on, kind of a cardio wrestling powerhouse like Jasmine, I don't know. I don't love it for her. But I haven't made a bet here. I haven't made a decision on it, but I do lean the Jasmine side. Moving on, we got Fares Ziam taking on Mike Davis. Current price, Davis minus 142. Comeback on Ziam plus 122. I do have a bit of early Ziam plus 165. I haven't decided if I'll keep the entire thing yet or if I'll just, arb the free profit on it. Saw it moving and just took it. I think it's a competitive fight. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that Ziam's the better striker of the two here. He's a bit longer. He's a bit younger, so you'd expect improvements. He's much more defensively sound. I think on the feet, he should handle himself okay here. Having said that, Davis is a much better athlete, and he is very, very fast. So I could see him having, degrees of success there. The big question in this fight is just really, what the grappling dynamic is going to be like. And that's really what I can't, I have had a hard time putting my finger on. Because if you tell me Ziam can mostly stay up, I don't really see how he's an underdog, to be honest. The problem is we have a lot of conflicting data on that, right? I mean, Ziam basically completely murked Figlak, who tried for his life to grapple him. Then he fights Claudio Puelles. I laid the number. I'm like, dude, Figlak couldn't get this guy down. Like, Claudio Puelles isn't getting him down. And Puelles goes out there and takes him down 7 fucking times. Now, he won the fight, but it was very concerning that a weenie like Puelles got him down 7 times, which is why I turned around and bet Frivola, who is a much better wrestler than Claudio Puelles and a lot stronger than Claudio Puelles. And he fucking burked Frivola. And Frivola had almost no wrestling success. So there's a part of me that's inclined to say Ziam just had an off night and was on the road in altitude with Puelles, and that's that. I mean, that happens. It's a one-on-one sport. But Davis scares me a bit because he's fat. I think he's the best athlete that Ziam's fought, in my opinion. And even if he is not like an elite wrestler, he is a good wrestler, and I think his raw physicality could allow him to get Ziam down here and just kind of work him there. So I don't know. I'm leaning towards potentially buying out of the position I have on Ziam. I do like his skills more. I expect him to keep improving. I just feel like if he's going to turn into a pumpkin against somebody, it's taking a huge step up in athleticism against a guy like Mike Davis. What do you think?
Yeah, no, honestly, it's funny you were talking about cashing out, because I was literally, before you were talking about that, I was like, well, I guess this is going to be our first shot bet of the year, John. Now, I don't have a bet on Mike Davis. I was hoping to get in on the pick'em when the line did drop down. But again, it shot back up to like minus 150. But I kind of like the Davis side for the points that you had mentioned. I think there is that obvious grappling hole. I think Davis can land takedowns here. And on the feet, I mean, Davis is the bigger hitter of the two, and I think he can compete standing. Though he's super, like, to your points, he is pretty hittable. And like going back and watching the Slava fights, like, again, very there to be hit. His cardio's a bit of a question mark to me. Like it seems okay, but he seems to fight through it pretty well.
Yeah, I don't think his cardio is good. I think it's not great, but he's game.
Yeah.
He's very game. You know, he's not gonna
Yeah.
he's not gonna bitch out if he gets tired in there.
Like when I was going back rewatching the Slava fight, to me, like I thought, like my memory was like, oh yeah, that was an easy fight for Mike, but like it had its sweaty moments for sure.
Yeah.
Agreed. So I lean on the Davis side here for me, hoping the price comes in. But if you want to do a shot bet on it, John, I will do that.
Yeah, I'll pass. Not on this one.
All
Actually,
right.
you know what? How about we'll tentatively put a placeholder in here in case we disagree
That's
with
fair.
anything else extremely there.
That's fair. Yeah.
If we have nothing else that we can come to that on, we'll do it. But
We can do that.
Moving on though, what do we got next? God, this card is I'm excited, man. Terrence McKinney, Damir Hadzovic. That's fucking awesome fight. For as long as it lasts.
For as long as it lasts, yeah.
A lot of theme on McKinney here. Minus 400, come back on Hadzovic plus 330. I'll go as far as to say I think there's still value on McKinney at 80%, honestly. I know everybody and their mother this week is going to talk about live bet Damir Hadzovic or bet Damir Hadzovic 2-3. I'm telling you guys, I don't even think it matters if McKinney gets tired here. I don't think he's going to have any problem, even in an extended fight, taking Damir down and holding him there. I just don't. Damir is 40 years old, who hasn't fought in 2.5 years. He is the worst defensive wrestler we have ever seen in UFC history. I just look, could he knock out McKinney? Yeah. But like I have a hard time seeing how he wins other than that. Honestly, McKinney is just so much better than him. He's so much more athletic. He's in his prime. I feel like if 3 fights ago, this would have been McKinney minus 1,500, but because he's had a couple bumps and bruises lately, you know, the price is where it is. I think it's McKinney all day long. What do you think?
No, I was literally just gonna look at like the fights real quick just to see like if after he got Brandon Moreau instead, if he didn't get Ribovics, like if he got Hadzovic, like we're probably looking at 8-1, right?
Maybe higher, yeah.
At least.
Was, what's his face? The Ghost Pepper. What's his name? That's his nickname. He was minus 1,000 in that fight.
Eric Gonzalez.
Yeah, Eric Gonzalez. He was minus 1,000 against Eric Gonzalez.
Even Mike Breeden, I think he was 5-1 on rewatch there.
Yeah,
something like that, 5-1, 6-1. But no, literally before we got on here, I was looking at Jasmine and Terrence parlay. It was minus 119. I know it's pretty square. Don't get me wrong, but like I think the
I don't think it's bad.
I know. I don't either, John. And like I think the speed and the grappling edge here are massive. And to your point, even if Terrence does get tired, like to me, the grappling edge is like almost like a 90 to like a 5.
Yeah, and like we haven't seen. I've said this on here before, but I feel like it's less gas with Terrence than it is confidence. Like you see it, he kind of like melts when he like hits a wall, like confidence wise. But he's never been a guy who's like, you know, gasping for air in there. Like I just don't see how what Damir Hadzovic is going to do to alter this fight, even if McKinney's tired, you know.
And you want to talk about the confidence there, like what's going to deter his confidence here from like not getting takedowns?
I agree. I completely agree.
Yep.
Can of corn, in my opinion. I understand why other people are why there will be people that say there's value on Damir. I just don't agree. So that's my opinion. Great fight here between a couple of heavyset men. We got Shamil Gaziev taking on Thomas Peterson. Current price, Gaziev minus 370. Come back on Peterson plus 305. What are your thoughts here, Lex?
This could be a good fight, or again, just a real slog. Personally, I think early in this fight, I think Gaziev's going to hit Peterson really hard. Like I don't think Peterson's got much defense, and I mean to Gaziev's point, I don't think he's got much defense either. But I think Gaziev's going to win round 1 at a high clip. I don't think Peterson's going to have much success grappling Gaziev on the back end. I know like the number's huge, but I think Peterson to compete here is going to have some grappling success or a ton of extended volume a ton of volume in this fight. but I think Gaziev isn't going to gas out that hard.
Yeah, I think Peterson's going to have to grapple here, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I was impressed by the kind of tenacity he showed against Usman in his last fight and how he kept coming. But I do think Gaziev hits hard enough that he's really not going to want to do that. Peterson's so hittable on the feet. Like, you don't want to be marching forward at Gaziev, with him firing back at you. However, I am not sure that Peterson can't just out-grapple him. I'm not confident, but
like fresh.
Yeah, like Peterson's a damn good wrestler, man. Like, he's got a really decorated wrestling background. He's got a
I don't see it.
I
don't see it. I think he's an okay wrestler that he's beating up a bunch of bums on the region.
Yeah, but he comes from a much more decorated wrestling background than what Gaziev comes from. I will tell you that much. I feel the price could be right if Peterson can't grapple him, but I also think all of the upside at the number is on the Peterson side here. Ian just said it in the who just said? Someone said it in the chat. Oh, Ian just said in the chat. If Gaziev gets past the first 7 minutes, if Peterson is pressuring him, and even if he's not having success and he's forcing heavy grappling exchanges, and Gaziev starts to slow, that could get ugly. Because Peterson, he's going to push through even if he's tired. Whereas Gaziev, we have literally seen Gaziev quit in the octagon. It's happened already in 3 fights, So I'm debating between, do I want to wait and go live or not? But it's also it's at the point where it's plus 310. And I'd be sick if I waited for live and then Peterson single legs him with 1 minute and 40 seconds left and just beats the fuck out of him on the ground, So I don't know. I'm leaning towards a Peterson bet here. I understand the reasons not to do it. And Gaziev is the more talented mixed martial artist with a lot more hardware early in fights. But I don't know. I think the line, I think there's a lot more uncertainty in this fight than the line is implying, personally. Moving on, though, we got Muhammad John Neov taking on Khan Offley. Current price, Neov decent size favorite here. He's minus 255. Comeback on Offley is plus 215. Any thoughts?
This one's a bit interesting. Not a ton of thoughts, but again, to me, I think Offley's got to get the grappling going. I think in the striking, he's not I don't want to say, I guess predictable is not a great word for it, but just not, his game's not very deep on the feet. And so I feel on the feet, I think Nemov's going to have pretty much no issues. The only issue I would say with laying a number like this, I don't think he's particularly durable. Nemov is. So it's just an easy pass for me. I think Offley's got to get the grappling going.
I don't think he's an unskilled fighter, Offley. I think
I don't either.
He's got decent skills. I just don't think he's physical enough. Honestly, I think that is his big problem. He's kind of slow and he's not very strong, whereas Nemov is extremely physical. I think Offley in the aggregate might be the better fighter here, but I feel like the physical advantages for Nemov are probably going to be too much for him. To your point, I think the best path for Offley is being able to force enough of a pace where, Nemov's physicality falls off a bit as he starts to get tired, and Offley can kind of take over with the grappling. But this is one that I'm interested in going live on because I think he's going to have a lot of issues with Nemov early in this fight. If he's still there after, Nemov is, if the pace is high enough and he's still there after 7 or 8 minutes, I'd be interested in going in live. But I do think Nemov's athleticism and physicality is just probably going to be too much for him, ultimately. Moving on, we have Saeed Nurmagomedov taking on Vinicius Lockdog Olera. Awesome fight here. Saeed's minus 170. Comeback on Olera, plus 145. I think the line's fine, in my opinion. I know a lot of people who want to take the shot on Olera. I can't hate anybody for doing it, but in my humble opinion, I just think he's outskilled everywhere here. Doesn't have much defense on the feet, fights his hands down a lot. In the grappling, I just think there's a huge gap here. And I feel like people are going to point to the Ricky Simone fight to show that his grappling isn't that bad. But Ricky's not a great control grappler to begin with. And I don't know, man. Ricky seems pretty washed.
And clearly, I was just going to say, he was clearly showing a regression at that point. I mean, he was 4 fights ago, he got knocked out by Yadong. And I think at that point, we were kind of seeing these slow regressions. Not saying he was at that point, but we were seeing it.
I got to say, on rewatch of that fight, he looked horrible. Simone. I mean, Ricky Simone.
Yeah, no, and the thing talking about the takedowns, he just looked kind of just half-hearted, really.
Yeah, I agree. And if you go to the fight before that, Olera got absolutely dumpstered on the map by Bernardo Sopaj before Sopaj gassed out.
Right.
So
Which was on short notice for him. So
yeah, and Saeed's a much better grappler than Sopaj is. So like I look at it, and Saeed's he's probably going to want to strike with him as he wants to strike with everybody. But I do think he's sharper, throws a bit straighter, and I think if he gets into trouble, he can default to the grappling here. Am I betting him? My biggest concern with Saeed, and why I'm not betting him, not at this price anyway, is just he does too much stupid shit, like too many stupid spinning things, from ranges where he should not be doing them that get himself into trouble. That kind of shit concerns me, especially against, a workhorse with a kind of a powerhouse like Oliveira. But I do think in the aggregate, Saeed's a much better fighter. He's more experienced in the UFC. He's fought better guys. He's, I think, as dangerous as Oliveira is. So I lead Saeed. What do you think?
The only other point I would add to that, the why you wouldn't want to lay the number would also be like the cardio for me. Like, I don't think it's got the best gas tank either. But no, I do think he's got a decent grappling edge here. And I do think, again, to your point, I think a lot of people will point to that Ricky Simone fight, him not having a ton of success. But I think Saeed is a very good grappler. I think anytime Lockdog tries to get into range here, he can just default to that grappling lane, some takedowns like he did against Jonathan Martinez really well. What would give me concern as well would be the calf kicks for sure of Lockdog. Like, he throws those pretty vicious, and Saeed, again, struggled a decent bit against Jonathan Martinez against that.
Yeah.
So could see him having some issues, but I do think the takedowns are almost just like a trick.
He'll get them if he wants them, honestly.
For sure. And he's super dangerous with the submissions as well. Whereas, who were we just talking about earlier?
So fun.
Yeah,
not super. Neither of whom are that good at submission grappling. Yeah. I just I watch Oliveira in that Sopai fight. I'm just like, this guy, any decent grappler is gonna fucking mug him, on top. So that's kind of how I think this goes. But moving on, we got another banger between big guys here. We got Sergey Pavlovich. He's taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Current price Pavlovich minus 305. Comeback on Rozenstruik plus 255. What are your thoughts here? You like the dog?
I don't. I'll be honest with you. And I think it's easy to say in hindsight that Volkov was like a bad matchup for Sergey. Like, obviously Volkov was a big underdog, but like looking at it now in hindsight, like massive guy, huge reach, and good footwork side to side. Whereas to me, Jairzinho doesn't have that. He doesn't have great striking defense, doesn't have great footwork side to side. He doesn't have, again, a huge reach advantage here. I think Sergey, if he wants to, can enter the pocket pretty freely here. And once that happens, I think he's much faster, hits much harder than Jairzinho. I know Jairzinho hits hard himself, but I think this is another just probably Pavlovich round one early finish. He could be a little bit tentative, I guess, just because of recent results. Again, maybe wants to play it a little bit slower, but I definitely could see him just knocking him out early.
Yeah, I mean, I'll bet Jairzinho. I'm definitely going to bet Jairzinho. But I don't really disagree with your points. I mean, I certainly favor Pavlovich. I mean, he's so fucking fast for a big guy. It's really like crazy, honestly. And, unlike some big guys, he's not relying on single shots. If he walks you down to the fence, he's just going to fire off like big combinations. Like, he's not going to let you off the hook. So, and I think that could give Rozenstruik some problems, especially very early in this fight. Having said that, my issue with Pavlovich is the guy is just so easy to hit. I mean, he doesn't move his head at all. He marches into the pocket on a straight line and wants to brawl with you. And that might work out for him here. Like I said, Rozenstruik will let him walk forward and will probably let him push him to the fence. The thing is, like, I agree with you, Lags, that he's a harder hitter than Rozenstruik is, but Rozenstruik's a more precise striker, in my opinion. And I think he's going to find, a home for his shots on Pavlovich, even if the fight is only brief. So, like, that in and of itself makes me think the line might be wide. And it's like, and if he can get out of like the first few minutes here, I think he's a much more technical striker than Pavlovich at just about everything. So I favor Pavlovich because he is bigger, to your point. He is longer. He is faster. He throws heavy combinations. I think he gets Rozenstruik out in the first round at a very high clip, or a decently high clip. But I also think Rozenstruik's got a lot of KO equity himself in this fight. And ultimately, that's why I'm going to end up playing him here, because they're two heavyweights. Both have a lot of power. Rozenstruik's got better defense, though less offensive potency. But yeah, I'm going to take a small poke at him here. I just can't see how plus 255 in a swing fest can be bad, but taking on the more defensively responsible fighter of the two swingers in there. So
yeah,
that's my thought. Moving on, we got Michael Venom Page taking on Shara Magomedov. I bet MVP at plus 150. The current price is Shara minus 250 or minus 200 to come back on MVP plus 170. I am a bit surprised that I got reversed on this. A little disconcerting. I bet Armin against Shara. It's like, how am I not betting Page at this price against him? I guess for me, like, Shara is probably better than I thought he was coming into the UFC. But the truth is, he does have piss poor defense. I mean, he only defends distance strikes at 48%, which is pretty fucking brutal. He's not going to bring a grappling threat to the table against Page. I think his biggest weapon in the context of this fight is calf kicks. We have seen Page struggle with them a long time ago. He's done a much better job in recent years, managing distance and defending them. But I unless he can compromise Page's calf at a consistent basis, I don't really understand the line. Because on the other side, you have Page, and he's an inch taller. He's got 6 inches of reach on Shara, I believe. He's much, much faster. He's a much more precise striker, in my opinion. He's got much better defense. I mentioned Shara's got a 48%, distance striking defense. Page is 63% distance striking defense. And they have similar accuracy. So you just have a much more efficient striker in Page, and you have a guy in Page who, no one gets off volume on it. He fought Ian Gary and Kevin Holland in his first 2 UFC fights, 2 guys who are very good volume strikers, and neither of them was able to get off any volume on him and got dumpstered. Even with the calf kick argument, Gary's a very good calf kicker, and Holland's not a bad one, and neither of them were able to have much success with that. And so I feel like I don't really expect Shara to massively outperform either of them in terms of offensive output here. I think the biggest advantage he has is Page is coming up to middleweight for this, which is Shara's natural weight class. But I just think Shara is going to be, if he doesn't get calf kicks going, I feel like Page is going to be able to find the target a lot, pretty much whenever he comes in. So I don't know. I feel like this is a close fight. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't think Page is going to. Page fights on thin margins. His volume's not high enough to say Page is going to blow him away. But he just dominated 2 really good strikers, and I don't think either is tangibly worse, if at all worse, at striking than Shara is. And now he's plus 170 in this fight. I think it's a close fight. I think if you want to favor Shara because it's in his backyard and it's in his weight class, and you want to make him a tiny favorite, I think that's fine. But I have 2 units of Page plus 150 here. What do you think?
I think maybe this is where we could put our shot bet at, and not because I'm confident on Shara by any means. And funny enough, it's actually I lost the shot bet on Shara when we were doing against Armin. I think we were doing significant strikes, something along those lines. To me, you mentioned the thin margins on the MVP side, and I guess that's where I'm just kind of a little bit paused on where he does win this fight. If Shara can get the volume off, can get calf kicks off, I think while this is standing, I just feel like Shara has a lot of advantages, can land the harder shots on the feet as well. I
don't agree, but
I personally just hate MVP style.
I don't like his style much either. I'm just more looking at it at the results, and they speak for themselves, kind of. So, but we'll see. I'm not. If you want to do a shot bet on this one, I'm happy to do that. That's fine.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, that works for me. Moving on, we got the main event though. We got Israel Adesanya taking on Nasruddin Imavov. Current price Izzy minus 155. Come back on Imavov plus 135. What are your thoughts?
I feel like this has kind of been the story of the card, but I feel like Imavov not necessarily needs to, but I feel like it would be very nice of him to get the grappling going here, put it that way. Because I feel like if he does stand and strike for 25 minutes, I think this is not an easy fight, but a very, very comfortable fight for Izzy to win. Where it's not fought at a high pace, there's not a ton of grappling going on. That's a fight that Izzy excels in.
Yeah. So
to me, it's Imavov pass. Don't love his cardio in extended fights. We've kind of seen that, and I don't think he's got the cardio to push said grappling pace. So again, I would look for overs if anything in this fight, but that's where I would look at.
Yeah, it's an odd fight. I don't really disagree with you. I don't think Izzy's been, an elite fight. Hasn't fought like, the last time he really looked elite in the octagon, in my opinion, was the first Pereira fight, the one he lost. He fought masterfully in that fight. Obviously, he ended up getting finished in the 5th round, but I think it's very obvious to me that Izzy is not the fighter he once was. He gassed out against Deicious, which was surprising. That was shocking to me, to be honest.
Yeah.
Deicious had a lot more offense. Now, granted, I always underrate Deicious, so maybe I'm underrating him again here. But Deicious had a lot more offensive success than I thought he would in that fight. So I just kind of think Izzy's at the point where you just can't trust him to be that guy anymore. Having said that, you brought up a good point though, and it's like I don't think Izzy is quite a championship level fighter anymore at his age. But if I were to design a fight for Izzy, it's someone who's going to strike with him at point striking range, who's not as precise, with 5 inches less reach than he has, at a slow tempo, and that's kind of what he's getting with Imavov here, like on the feet. I agree with you in that respect. That I think at distance, I think it's a fight that Izzy can kind of have his Izzy fight. What worries me? Sorry, my wife just got home. So
no, you're good.
What concerns me with Adesanya is what I mentioned, him getting older. And also, Imavov does have a large grappling edge. I'm very skeptical that he has the cardio to wrestle for 5 rounds, but he might not need to with what we saw of Izzy on bottom last fight against Deicious. I think he can have some clinch success. And what I will say is, even though I favor Izzy comfortably at distance, Izzy operates on very thin margins himself historically. So you have, let's say Imavov can take a round or two off him consistently, pushing the grappling and the clinch. Well, then it's like he only really needs to, find one other round in there. He's obviously the much younger fighter. I do think he's still showing some improvements here. And I think he's the more dangerous fighter at this point in their careers. I'm not betting him. It would be disrespectful to bet Nasruddin Imavov at plus 135 against, Israel Adesanya at this point in their careers. But I'm with you. I think it's a Imavov or pass. I feel like Izzy's kind of reaching the point in his career, especially when you consider the fact that Izzy's game is based on speed and precision, not power and physicality, not grappling. That kind of game, when you start to slip, it can slip really bad all at once. So I think there's a fair amount of downside on the Izzy side here. I am not going to bet it, but I have a feeling Imavov's going to win this fight. I have no problem with the number where it is, but my gut feeling is Imavov is going to win this fight. I don't know why. It's just kind of, I think this is towards the end for Izzy, but I'm not gonna bet on it just because based on my gut, obviously. That's how we do business here. But yeah, so that's my thought. I don't really like the total on it. I don't really like many of the totals that I've looked at thus far in this card.
And the other thing I was gonna say is at first I was thinking, maybe it could be a sneaky look, but based on the total at over 4.5 minus 200, it probably isn't. No, not the total, but the fight ending a split, because it's probably, low-ish tempo, maybe not a ton of grappling, maybe him winning a round or two
in Saudi Arabia, against a Muslim.
Yep.
It's
exactly.
I think it was Imavov a Muslim anyway, right?
Right.
I assume.
I think so. So could those rounds could sway with the grappling. You never know.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's a bad look. I would say I
can't imagine it's a good price,
I think. Yeah, right. If it's worse than that, I probably wouldn't take a look at that. But I don't think that's a bad look. Honestly, I think it's going to be an underwhelming main event. That's honest. It's funny because it's probably. Sorry, my 1-year-old just walked in. It's probably hey, dude. Mm-hmm. It's probably the worst fight or the fight that I'm looking forward to least on the entire card. But anyway, lads, I'll let you take us out of here since my 1-year-old just got here. Guys, we'll be back same time next week, 7 p.m. Eastern. Lags, do you have any other thoughts here?
No other thoughts here, unless you no. You're good. I guess that's it.
So we'll be back next week. We'll be talking UFC 313 or is it 312?
I believe it's 312.
312.
Duplessis Strickland 2.
7 p.m. Eastern. So stop by and guys, drop a like, subscribe, please, and check out fightnumbers.com, promo code club. Good luck on your bets this weekend. We'll see you next week. Peace.